Good evening, heartfelt true believers, and welcome on into the overnight edition of From Day One as we march through Dominion Part 2 tonight of the SETI conversation.
Where they are up there, they have to invest a fair amount of money in their transmitting setup unless they know we're here and they're deliberately targeting the Earth, and they can make a very focused, if you will, a very beamed signal, and then it doesn't cost them so much. But if they don't know we're here and they're just giving the if you will, the galactic weather forecast, or maybe it's the galactic internet signal, or whatever it is, if it isn't really intended directly for us, we're only going to hear it if it's an incredibly powerful transmitter, and that might be unrealistic. Maybe they don't want to pay for all those kilowatt hours. So and in that case, if you had receivers that were 1,000 times more sensitive, then maybe the landscape changes.
Okay, so we pretty well summed up these signals not received to date.
That's right.
All right, something I want you to hear. Hold on just a second, and you'll get a chance to respond to it. This is a Dr. Stephen Greer, and I know that you know that name. So what I want you to do is listen very carefully.
Now, I'm going to say something here because this is enough years after it happened. A few years ago, there was a show called Coast to Coast with Art Bell. And it was on the cover of Time magazine, and I was one of his favorite guests. And when I'd be on that show, it really lit things up at certain agencies. And one time I was on his show, and a few years back, towards the end of his career there, and this issue came up, and I said, well, I have a source high up in SETI that confirms to me that they, in fact, have received interplanetary signals, but in a kind of phased, not normal array. It was kind of a pulsed array, and that it was kept secret and covered up. And the SETI people were furious. Subsequently, Seth Shostak got on the show and just said, well, Dr. Greer knew what he's talking about, and he probably talked to some volunteer computer operator, because we have all this network of volunteers. What Art Bell didn't know, and which Seth Shostak didn't know, and which I'm going to say now because it's enough for water gone under the bridge, is that the guy who told me that was the founder of the SETI project and the Drake equation, Dr. Drake. He told me that they had that contact. Moreover, a man who had been one of Carl Sagan's best friends, best man at his wedding, confirmed it. And he had been present when the WOW signal came in at Harvard.
Okay. There you have it. I'd like to get your reaction to that.
Well, I'll try and moderate myself here. I actually do remember this show when Stephen Greer came on your program, as he says, and he went on for, a couple of hours about how he knew that we had found a signal. Now, first off, you got to ask yourself, if we had found a signal, why wouldn't we tell the world? That would really help our funding.
Right, but at that time, to be fair, he didn't say how he knew this.
Oh, he did. He did.
He didn't say what he just said.
Somebody at SETI told him. He said somebody at the SETI Institute told him.
Okay,
all right. At a party, actually. And
there you have it. He laid it out here, though, who it was.
He did. And I got hold of, Coast to Coast, and I said, this is incredible. And they said, we'll put you on. So I was on with you, I think, the next night, or within 48 hours, anyhow.
Right.
And what I had done in the meantime was, there were only 4 scientists. There are a couple of engineers. There are no volunteers. All of that is nonsense. Also, the WOW signal suddenly was at Harvard. I suppose you heard that, whereas in fact it was at Ohio State. But never mind any of that. The thing is that there were only 4 scientists connected with the SETI project at that time, and of course they were all just down the hall from me. They're not casual acquaintances. They're people I work with every day. And I went to all of them, including Frank Drake, by the way, and said, what do you know about Stephen Greer? Not one of them had heard of Stephen Greer, let alone have talked to him at a party somewhere. And so I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. So I called up Stephen Greer's organization. Should I go on? Do you want to hear more of this?
A little more.
Okay. So I called up Greer's operation in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I asked to speak to Mr. Greer about this because I wanted to know with whom he had spoken. He didn't say on the air when he was with you that it was Frank Drake.
Right.
Of course, if Frank Drake had known that we'd pick up a signal, Frank Drake would be, he'd have a Nobel Prize on his mantle today. And they didn't let me talk to Greer, actually. And in the end, they just stonewalled me. They said, well, he's busy. And I said, look, what could you just at least send me an email? Just have him tell me a date or a location where he heard this information, just so I can verify it.
Yeah.
And he refused to do that.
Well, I doubt they refused. They probably didn't know at that point. I mean, the reason I pulled this audio, obviously, is because he laid it out. The people involved and everything else. Now, are you absolutely sure, Seth, that if one was received, that even you, as senior astronomer, of course you would know, but I mean, what if there's some protocol that even you don't know about?
Well, I was chair of the international committee that set the protocols, so I guess I know about the protocols. But beyond that, you just got to back off from this for a moment and look at what we're trying to do. We're trying to find a signal that would prove somebody's out there.
Oh, well, yes.
And we do this on the basis of volunteer donations. I mean, the only money we get for this is the money people send us because they think it's an interesting thing to do. Now, if we had found a signal and that looked pretty good, doggone it, that the problem of the funding of course would go away. But it would be like asking a cancer researcher, Ralph, you're looking for a cure for cancer. Now, are you sure you're not keeping that a secret? Maybe you found it and you're keeping it a secret. Would you say, well, does that make sense?
From some points of view, Seth, it does.
Well, not in the case of SETI, because, there are people who will say, Seth, if you guys find a signal, probably the government would want to shut you down, keep that news quiet.
Yes.
And I ask, every time somebody says that to me, I have to come back and say, why? Why would they want to keep it quiet? It would be one of the most interesting discoveries ever. So why would they want to keep it quiet? If you discover Antarctica, you want to keep it quiet?
Well, I've got a lot of answers for that.
Okay.
And
I'm listening.
And we've had this argument before, or this discussion before, but there are obvious answers. It would, depending on the nature of the contact, it might well very much upset religious faith across the world, not just here, but across the world. And it would just depend on the nature of the contact. If it's just some, we're here, we're here, we're here, but we're 100 light years away, no problem. 100 light years seems like, plenty of separation. But if it's, we're here, we're going to take over, get your armies ready, they'll last about 5 seconds, that's a different kind of signal, right?
Well, to begin with, that's a signal that we couldn't pick up, right? Because that one has modulation. Right? That's a signal with a message. Remember, we're only listening for the dial tone, if you will. We're listening for the carrier. Okay, so the carrier doesn't carry any information. It's just part of the signal.
Well, yeah. But once you get the carrier, you're going to be looking for the modulation real quick.
It's a completely different instrument to do that, and it would take 10 years to build that.
What?
Yep.
You mean to tell me if you got a signal that amounted to a carrier of whatever nature, you couldn't examine it for any modulation for 10 years? Serious?
No, you could try. You could try. But the thing is, I mean, if they were just modulating the carrier, this is getting a little bit technical.
Modulation, folks, just means information.
Right.
Right? Think of this carrier, this signal.
You can look at the carrier as it's like a whistle. It's a single tone.
Yes.
Like that. And
Right.
they could turn that on and off.
That would be some kind of modulation.
Right. Interstellar Morse code.
Right.
If they had a slow fist, if these guys were really slow in sending their Morse code, maybe you could pick that up. They're only sending a few words per minute. But they're not going to do that. If they're going to the trouble of building a transmitter that's, sending information into space, they're going to send a lot of information. You're not going to waste time, sending a few words per minute any more than you want to dial up modem anymore. So,
Well, when we transmitted from Arecibo in that very controversial transmission, we sent information.
very little information. 1,679 bits. That's not much. Any page of text in a magazine has considerably more.
More than a blank carrier, though.
It was done with 2 carriers. And you might be able to get that, but the point is really a different one. The point is you're picking up a signal. There's no danger in picking up a signal. If somebody tunes in their favorite talk show host right in their car radio, they don't have to worry that talk show host is going to jump into the car and start giving them a hard time just because they got tuned in. The talk show host doesn't know who's tuned in, right? So that would be the same with us. We pick up a signal. Of course, they don't know that. I mean, the signal may have even taken 1,000 years to get to us. The guys who said it might be long gone, but
I sometimes feel like strangling my callers occasionally.
But do you ever do it?
No, it's just a thought. Innocent.
That's the difference. And in any case, Mr. Greer, I've had to occasionally debate him on the radio, but he just makes stuff up. I hate to say this, but he just makes stuff up.
So that's where you stand in response to that statement. He made it up.
Yes, absolutely. You can talk to Frank Drake himself. Ask him, hey, Frank, did you ever talk to this guy, Stephen Greer? I asked him that, actually. And he said, I don't know who that is. That was his response.
Well, yes, and you would think if he made a statement of the kind of magnitude we were talking about here, certainly he would have recalled it.
Oh, well, not only that, but if we picked up a signal, it doesn't matter whether he recalled, Stephen Greer or not.
Unless Frank, turned around after you asked him and thought, oh, my God, how does he know? You don't think so, huh?
I don't think so, no. Nope, really don't.
We do have to talk about protocols. You say you have written the protocols that would be used if a signal was detected. And I guess, when do the protocols kick in? How many people have to verify it before the protocols begin?
Well, the protocols are simply, if you will, a code of good practice. It sounds like something for a television.
Code of good practice? It does.
I mean, there's no force of law. And there have been protocols that were set up during the NASA SETI days. So even back, in the early 90s, these things had been drafted.
Sounds like something you for an outline for a sitcom or something. Listen, hold tight. We'll be right back. We're at a break point. Seth Shostak, the senior astronomer and director of the Center for SETI Research, my guest. Time between dusk and dawn. From the high desert, it's Art Bell's Midnight in the Desert. Now, here's Art. Well, okay, I'm going to sort of semi-open the phone lines, even though we've got a lot to talk about with Seth. So, if you have a Skype call you want to make and you're in North America, it's so easy. MITD 51 is what you put in. It's like you're going to dial something. MITD 51 and call us. Here is Seth Shostak once again. All right, well, so we've got to face at least the possibility, Seth, that we are all alone. Although we did recently, I saw this amazing photograph. In fact, it was too amazing to be true. They called it Earth 2. I guess you probably saw that headline somewhere. There's this planet they found, but it's really far away, I think. And they call it Earth 2. Did you see that headline?
Well, I think you're probably referring to a planet called its other name other than Earth 2. It's Kepler 452b.
That's the one.
Okay, all right. Well, that probably doesn't look quite as impressive on the library card as Earth 2.
No, and they actually showed a picture of it. It had an atmosphere. You could see continents.
Yeah, well, all of that is an artist's impression.
Yeah, you got it.
They haven't actually seen this thing. This was found by the Kepler Space Telescope, which is a NASA telescope up in orbit, and it was launched 4 or 5 years ago. And what it does is what it did up until part of it broke up until about a year ago. It would just stare at 170,000 stars and just measure the brightness all the time. Every 30 seconds, it would download the brightness of each one of those 170,000 stars. And if what a particular star had planets going around it and they were oriented the right way, Well, that planet would get in front of the star, just reduce the brightness of the star. An Earth-like planet doesn't reduce the brightness very much because it's small compared to the star.
Right.
It will reduce it by about 1 part in 10,000, so 0.01% typically. And this was one that they found in the data that did that, and it was about the same size as the Earth. It was also in the same sort of orbit as the Earth because its year, they know that because of the time between, it dims the star and then a certain period of time later it dims it again and dims it again. And the period of time was 385 days.
Pretty close.
Well, it's pretty close. So, if you lived on that planet, you would age a little bit less quickly. At least the birthdays wouldn't come quite as quickly. And so, it also is orbiting a star that really is very similar to the sun, a little bit brighter, but not much different than the sun. So here you have a planet. It turns out to be about the same size as the Earth, a little bigger, 60% bigger. It has the same year. We don't know if it has the same day or anything like that, but we know the temperatures on that planet are going to be somewhat similar to Earth because it's the same distance from its star. So that's why it's called Earth 2. It's a cousin of the Earth, we think, maybe.
Okay. That is neat stuff. So it's very much like Earth in most ways that we can see, including perhaps the temperatures. I guess we have no way yet to detect if it has water, right?
Yeah, that's hard to do. The problem is there are ways you could think of to determine if it has water. If you could get a little bit of light from that planet and pass that light through a prism and then analyze the rainbow and all that stuff. These are things that astronomers do all the time. You might see water vapor in the atmosphere, that sort of thing, but you have to get some light from the planet. And the problem is this star system is, I think it's 1,400 light years away.
All right, that means, folks, that if you could travel at the speed of light, you would have to travel for 1,400 years to get there. Correct, Seth?
That's right. Well, if you could travel at the speed of light, you get there essentially instantaneously from your point of view. But from anybody watching you go, they say, well, Luigi took 1,400 years to get there.
No, wait a minute. What have I got wrong here? If it's 1,400 light years away and you're traveling at the speed of light, it takes 1,400 years to get there.
Depends on whom you ask. That's just special relativity. You know that clocks don't all run at the same speed. At the same rate. This is what Einstein figured out and published in 1905. If you're in a car, you've got a watch and it's set to the same time as my watch, and I'm just standing on the side of the road watching you drive by, I would see that your watch seems to go slower than my watch. Yeah. Now, at 60 miles an hour, that doesn't make really much of a difference. No. But if you're going at the speed of light, then your watch stops. So from your point of view, it took you no time to get there, but but of course you can't go at the speed of light, so maybe that's not the right way to look at it. Maybe the right way to look at it is if you could go, say, 99% of the speed of light or something like that. Yes. Then from the standpoint of somebody on the ground, they would say, okay, it took them a little over 1,400 years to get there. But from the standpoint of the crew on the spacecraft, they would say, well, that only took a couple of months. They would have only aged a couple of months.
They would have only aged a couple of months, but still, they would have spent 1,400 linear years in travel, wouldn't they?
Only by the calendar and the clock back on Earth. The clocks on their ship would have said, well, you've been here for 3 months.
Really?
Or whatever it was. Yeah. That's relativity. I mean, it's non-intuitive.
Well, that's relatively cool.
Yes, it is relatively cool. It's also relatively strange. But, I mean, in some sense, that's the big hope for ever going to the stars.
All right, listen, you want calls. They're ringing off the hook, so let's take a couple, okay?
Okay.
All right, here you are. It's Midnight with Seth. Hi.
Hello, Art.
Hi there.
Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you.
But some of us, having to go through the Art Bell withdrawal.
Well, thank you. Where are you located?
Okay, I'm calling from Niagara Falls, New York.
New York, okay. Well, here's Seth. Go ahead.
Yes, Seth. Number one is I've been a big fan of the SETI at Home software. Been running it for years, and I recently stopped for a while, but that's beside the point. You guys started to address what I was about to ask. I see one of the problems is that while you're searching for a signal. If you're trying to get a signal from a star system that is, say, 1,000,000 light years from here, well, then you're betting on a civilization that is, 1,000,000 years more advanced than us, because it's going to take 1,000,000 years for that signal to reach you.
That's a pretty good point.
Is that a correct thinking?
I think it is.
It's
Relatively speaking.
Just a couple of things. I didn't get your name.
Mario.
Oh, Mario.
Mario. Okay. Are you super? Okay, Mario. Well, you're absolutely right about that. That means that if it was from 1,000,000 light years away, that the signal was sent 1,000,000 years ago, and that means that they would have had to have developed, powerful radio transmitters 1,000,000 years before we did. That's not impossible. The universe is 13 billion years old. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. In other words, the universe has been here 3 times as long as the Earth has. So most of the stars out there are billions of years older than our own. So, what the heck? Why couldn't they be 1,000,000 years more advanced?
But okay.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
Just like our television signals have left this planet and is traveling throughout space, okay? Someone could be watching I Love Lucy, even though I don't think it's gotten that far to another star system yet, okay? So that race really doesn't have to be that much more advanced than us, but the idea is trying to pick up a signal. That race would have to be 1,000,000 times more advanced than us for that signal to have left that star system for you to receive.
Got it. I really do have it. Thank you. Thank you, Mario. Well, all right. Let's take off from there. First of all, why does everybody use I Love Lucy?
Well,
That always has to be the thing received. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's written into law somewhere.
If we received a signal from, a planet that far away, what did he say, 1,000 light years?
He said 1,000,000 light years.
1,000,000 light years. That's kind
much
of
farther than
overdoing it. Overdoing it. Say 1,000 light years. That would mean that we were essentially looking 1,000 light years into the past when they had radio. And so if they still exist now, in the now, they will have been that much more advanced. And to them, if they even paid attention to our puny little answer, assuming we sent one, we'd be to them as ants are to us.
Well, that's a lot, yes. I mean, that could be.
It could be, yes.
A couple of things. To begin with, in general, we're looking, tens, hundreds of light years away. So, the difference isn't that enormous, but the point is still valid. But so what?
Well, what do you mean, so what? They would wish us gone, and we'd be gone if that's what they wanted. That's how powerful they would be.
They could be very powerful, but again, all we did was pick up their signal. They didn't know that we did that. And the other thing is the fact that it's old information. In this case, your example there, Art, 1,000 years old. So what? I read Julius Caesar in high school. That information was 2,000 years old. It was still interesting to read, and Julius Caesar wasn't going to attack me for it. And I didn't have to worry about the fact that if I talked back to him, he was now more advanced, anything like that. So what? I mean, the fundamental point is that if you pick up a signal, yes, it's old. It might only be 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 or 500 years old. It might be 1,000 years old. A million is much, much farther than any of us ever have looked.
Let's stay in the middle, but 500. 500 years, my God, Seth. Think of us, if you can even try and imagine us, 500 years from now.
Yeah, no,
that's scary.
Well, I hope we have the cure for death, Art. But yes, okay. But there's an advantage to all this too, and Mario may have been going in this direction. That if you hear from a society that's very much more advanced than we are, right? I mean, maybe you hear from them just when they're at the same level that we are, but it's more likely they're more advanced because they really need those powerful transmitters for us to hear them. Then maybe they can teach us something. And the fact that they're not there anymore, or their society has moved on to who knows what, that's just the way it is. But it might still be very interesting to hear from them, even though you're reading newspapers, if you will, from last week or last month or 10 years ago. But if it's the only newspaper you get, it's still interesting to read it.
It would be interesting. I certainly agree with you, but it also could be catastrophic. That thought in mind, Walnut Creek, you're on the air with Seth. It's midnight. Hi.
Hi, Art. It's an honor to speak to you, and I'm calling from Walnut Creek, California. Good evening. Seth, I'm not a comedian. I'm not trying to be funny. There's just some weird things that pop up in my head every so often, and I've wondered. Nobody can seem to answer this question. I'll email people. Nobody gets back to me. Nobody has an answer. I'm wondering, is there anything slower than not moving?
Is there anything slower than not moving?
I think
is an interesting twist on how high is the sky, right?
Yeah. By definition, if you're not moving, that's about as slow as you can go. But maybe it's worth pointing out that it's impossible not to move at all. Okay, I mean, you
right.
might think you're not moving, but of course, if you're just sitting there in a chair, you are moving because the Earth is rotating, and then the Earth's going around the Sun, and then the Sun is headed off into the galaxy, and the galaxy's moving, so everything's moving. You say, well, wait a minute, there must be something that's not moving. Turns out that there's really nothing that's not moving. You can take a bunch of atoms and you cool them down, and they slow down when you cool them down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could cool them to absolute zero, then they would stop in theory. But in fact, they never stop. They never stop. So everything is always moving. So I guess in that sense, complete stop is kind of a misnomer.
Okay, caller, are you worried you're lazy? I guess he's gone.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. Here he is.
Stop listening.
Caller?
Yeah.
Maybe you just weren't moving quick enough.
No, I know I'm lazy.
There are subatomic things moving really slowly. It's so slowly you can't see them. We're so tiny.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never heard anybody, thank you, I've never heard anybody ask that question, so just based on that alone, you should win something. I don't know what, but you should win something. Let's see. We have to take a quick break, so why don't I go ahead and do that? Oh, baby. Keith, let this roll for a little bit. It's been so long. I'm Art Bell.
Skype up. Call Midnight in the Desert at MITD 51. That's MITD 51.
That's right, folks. Skype up. I love that term, Skype up. My guest is the senior astronomer and director of the Center for SETI Research, Seth Shostak. And he admits that in all the years, including the WOW signal, which probably wasn't as wowy as we think, that we haven't heard anything yet. And we'll explore those implications as well, too. Seth, welcome back on.
Thanks, Art.
It's always fun to have you on the air. I really enjoy you on the air. You've got a certain bounce back to you that I like.
Well, it keeps me awake.
I hear your computer making little noises, by the way.
Really? Yeah, I don't know what that is. I've been trying to turn it off, but I'll just.
It's all right.
I'll just turn off this Skype connection here.
Oh no, be careful. Don't turn me off. All right. So lots and lots and lots of people want to talk to you, and I have stuff I want to sprinkle in. For example, if Donald Trump were to give the SETI Institute enough money, would you be willing to call it the Trump dish set? Come on, I need an answer here.
Well, the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Right.
Look, I could make excuses and so forth and so on, but the facts are we would do that. There's a lot of historical precedent for naming telescopes after the guy who writes the check.
Yeah, he really likes stuff named after him, so there you have it. Let's go where to? I don't know. Wilmington, North Carolina. Hi, it's midnight. You're on with Seth.
Hi, Art. Thank you for taking my call. This is Gabrielle Eastern Here Normal, and I sent you a message through the wormhole. What I would like to ask your guest is Frank Sumption. He was the developer of the first ghost boxes that we had, and now we have the shack hacks and ghost boxes, and people are making them. We're getting voices coming through them claiming that they're interdimensional beings.
All right, no, wait. This is a really cool story, but I'm not sure it fits in for Seth.
Yeah, this is the question. I was about to finish it.
Okay.
And we're getting a lot of them saying they're space aliens, which is a type of dimensional being. And so my question to him is, what does he think about that? Where does he think these voices come through? I posted a video in the DM Talk thing here that he can look at if he's on it. But I'll get off and listen to
No, don't go away yet. Actually, I'm glad you have asked this question. Now, Seth, you're listening with very powerful dishes and computers looking at millions of frequencies. But how can you rule out the possibility that the communication will come in some way that we simply don't expect, maybe even one like she's talking about right now?
Well, I don't know the details of the ghost boxes, I have to say. I don't have one in my home. But in terms of could it come, in a different way? Could the proof
come through a ghost box? I mean, really?
Well, maybe I should look into it.
Maybe you should have a ghost box. Young lady, can you get Seth a ghost box?
I absolutely could get Seth a ghost box. There's also another question is we have these apps you can download on your iPhone. I have an iPhone too, and you can get them on Android.
Really?
They're coming saying it on the apps. Yeah, you should have Danny Bigbeard from the Echo Box.
Danny Bigbeard?
Danny Bigbeard. He's got the Echo Box on. And they come through and they talk through them. And like I said, some say we're ghosts. We admit it. I have one of those. But I have a ton of them that say we're aliens, we're on the moon. They say they're on Mars. They say they're in all kinds of places.
Okay. All right. If you would please send a ghost box post haste to Seth Shostak at SETI Research Center. And I know he'll be looking for that box.
I will.
Probably have it X-rayed.
Just to follow up there a little bit, because you asked, could it be that the proof that there's somebody out there comes out of, if you will, left field?
Yeah, I wasn't totally joking, Seth. Really, I wasn't.
Well, I'm not joking with my answer, because the answer to that question is yeah, could happen. In fact, again, if you look at some of the most interesting discoveries in physics or astronomy, those are the fields that I personally know best, but some of them came out of experiments that weren't designed to find
exactly.
That could happen. And in the case of finding ET, one thing that I think is a good contender for turning up something that we're not expecting is simply the increasing amount of imaging of the sky being done with really big telescopes. And they keep building big telescopes. When I was a kid, the biggest telescope was the one in Mount Palomar, the 200-inch telescope in Southern California. Today, there are telescopes that are much, much bigger than that. And they're building one in Hawaii that's the mirror is 30 meters across. Well, that's like 100 feet. The Palomar telescope is 200 inch. It's 100 feet across. And, when you have those kinds of instruments looking at the sky, who's to say? They might trip across something that we don't expect.
Moreover, who's to say that somebody doesn't invent some silly little thing that they call a ghost box that resonates in some crazy way that would make you and I laugh just thinking about it right now, but actually works?
Well, I wish them the best of luck. I personally, I'm not sure they have a ghost of a chance for doing that, but I wish them the best of luck.
All right. Ken on Skype, you're on the air with Seth. Hi.
Hi, Art. Good to talk with Seth.
It is, yes.
I couldn't think of a better show to pose this question.
Okay.
It kind of goes along with the lines of your last caller. It's regards to the frequencies that you span. I know most of it's in microwave spectrum, but from what I understand, gravitational waves travel much faster. And another thing that you might want to add to that comment from the other caller is our brains have magnetite in them, and we're subject to magnetic field influences and possibly gravitational waves. Could it not be that what she's trying to relate to is that mental communication with the brain is a possibility and much faster than speed of light if it's on a gravitational wave?
I sure don't rule it out. Seth?
Well, Ken, here's the thing. I do get quite a number of emails, maybe one or two a month, from people who say, you guys are wasting your time with radio waves or light waves because they only go at the speed of light. So why not use gravitational waves? Why not look for gravity waves coming from deep space? There are experiments, by the way, to look for gravity waves.
Even, Seth, from another dimension. That's how...
It could be spooky matter, related to spooky matter.
Spooky matter. Well, there is spooky action at a distance. That was Einstein's way.
Right.
But Ken, just to make sure that you get this, according to Einstein, gravity waves travel at the speed of light. They don't go faster than light. They don't go faster than radio waves. And they're really hard to detect, because we haven't even detected them yet. We got millions of dollars worth of equipment looking for gravity waves, and they still haven't scored. And to generate a gravity wave that's strong enough for somebody to pick it up, on some other star system, requires doing something really impressive, like shaking your planet or shaking a star or something like that. It's hard.
What if it's brain-to-brain communication? I mean, ESP has been long known as a possibility.
Yeah, but it's not been demonstrated. I think there's a big experiment, Ken, you may want to consider, that's testing whether, ESP actually works. And that experiment is called Las Vegas. If ESP works...
Well, there's also something that's called the Spirit and the Holy Spirit in the Bible.
Okay, well, that's yet a different direction. And although you can also use that in Vegas, you can try that in Vegas too. But, if somebody did, here's my answer. If somebody did win a lot of money in Vegas, I mean tons of money, using some special power like ESP, they probably wouldn't advertise it, Seth.
No, they wouldn't.
No, but the casinos might toss them out after a while. I don't know, but ESP has been tested occasionally. They've run some experiments, and they say, okay, look, you claim you can do it, and they put people who claim they can do it into a testing situation where they're trying to send the color of a card or whatever it is to somebody in another room, and it doesn't work.
Just one last comment. The CIA has used it in remote viewing, so I know that some of it's proven, some of it's not, but I appreciate all those answers, and it was really good talking to you, and keep up the good work.
All right, Ken, thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Seth. Hold on, we are at this nice longer bottom of the hour break. I'm Art Bell. Midnight in the desert, raging in the nighttime. Stay right where you are.
Skybob. Call Midnight in the Desert at MITD 51. That's MITD 51.
That's what I want to encourage. We've got a full bank of calls here, but we love Skype calls. Really, we do. We love Skype calls. So MITD 51 is the way to do it. When you come in on Skype, if you're wearing a headset, mic, boy, do you sound good. And if you're not, then just get up really, really close to where the microphone is on your computer. If you can find it, it's like a little hole or something. And you can use that. But you have the potential to sound really good on Skype. And by the way, here once again is the senior astronomer and director of the Center for SETI Research, Seth Shostak, along with somebody named Michelle somewhere else in the world. Hi, Michelle. Where are you?
Hi, I'm from Japan. I actually called you last week, I think.
That's right, Japan. From Japan. Okay, excellent.
Yeah. First of all, did you get the picture of Mount Fuji I sent you?
I have not yet. You sent it to artbell at artbell.com?
Hopefully you'll get it.
Okay.
So the question I had was, a couple of years ago, I heard a news story about a research telescope like this that had detected signals that they determined were not natural. It was somewhere in South America. And when they brought it back, and I guess they demodulated it or something, they found that it was Doctor Who episodes from the 1960s that had gone out to space, and the signals had hit an interstellar object of some sort and bounced back and had come back, and they were really excited because these episodes had all been destroyed by the BBC. And I hadn't heard anything about that since, and I thought, who better to ask?
I haven't ever heard about this. No, that's really cool. Stop right, Michelle, hold on. Stop right there. Seth, have you heard anything about this?
No, the news of Doctor Who has not made it to me. But,
okay.
I mean, Michelle, I could say this. You send out a TV signal, and it's true, it goes out into space. That part's right. And if it hits something, some of the signal bounces back. But even if it hit the moon, right, which is a pretty big object in the sky compared to anything else that you can think of, it's much bigger than, for example, Saturn looks in the sky and so forth. Even if it hit the moon and bounced back, and that would take 3 seconds, you would get the show 3 seconds later. That's hardly much of a delay at all. But the real point is it would be very much weaker, because only part of the signal actually hits the object, and even less of what hits the object actually makes it back to you. It's kind of a poor man's radar, really. And to do radar with Doctor Who, I don't know, doesn't sound right to me, Michelle, I gotta say.
Well, like I said, this was a news story that I had heard that was all over the internet for a little bit and then went away. So who knows? It could have been fake or something, but
could be a
I figured
misunderstanding.
who better to ask.
Oh, Michelle, if it's on the internet, it's got to be
find
true. Everybody knows that.
Oh, of course, right? But I believe the BBC was actually talking about it because they were hoping that in the future they would be able to get some of these back because the tapes were destroyed, and so there's all these missing episodes.
All right. Well, listen. Thank you very much for the question, and for calling. And Seth, what about that? I mean, it is possible, isn't it, that something out there could be... I'm going to give you one, Seth. You're a radio guy, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I swear to you, what I'm about to tell you is the truth. Okay? I used to operate very high power on the 75-meter band, which is 3.5 to roughly 3.9 megahertz. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On single sideband. I would love to have you explain this. There were several times, Seth, that I heard my own signal come back to me 3 or even almost 4 seconds later. I swear to you, this is true. They're called LDEs, long delayed echoes. It's not an echo when it comes that long. Nobody knows how it's done or how it could be done, because after all, radio travels at slightly less than the speed of light, right?
Well, it depends on the medium, but normally it would travel at the speed of light, at least in a vacuum.
Or actually, it's slightly under, I think, the speed of light. Anyway, maybe whatever. It goes fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it couldn't even be the moon. If you do the math, almost 4 seconds, it couldn't even be the moon, Seth. And there are a lot of ham operators that back me up. This is true. I grant you I'm operating high power, legal limit, all that stuff, big antenna. Yeah. But it's not possible. Now, you're going to say somebody was screwing around with you, playing you back to yourself. No, because in order to prove it to myself, I went sliding up a few kilohertz one way or the other several times, and each time it came back on the same frequency. How could that be?
Well, Art, I'm not sure I can answer the question. I long delay echoes, certainly heard about them. And, depending on the angle of the antenna and all that, it's conceivable. Maybe the signal bounced from the ionosphere back to Earth and back up to the ionosphere, all the way around the Earth. Maybe. That doesn't sound...
Even so, even if it did, the math doesn't work.
Well, it depends on the angle of the bounce. But, the moon, you ruled out the moon, but you shouldn't rule out the moon. The moon is a 250,000 miles away. So to go there and back is 500,000 miles. So the 500,000 miles, the speed of light is 186,000 miles a second. So to go to the moon and back takes a little over 3 seconds.
Right.
So there you go.
Well,
maybe you did moon bounce.
All right, fellow hams, hear me when I tell you, my own signal coming back to me was 20 over 9. Now that's a strong darn signal, Seth.
Well, it is. I don't think it was moon bounce because of that, because you wouldn't expect it to be so strong, but...
Not even close. Not even close. All right, back to the phones we go. Mount Pleasant, hello.
Hello.
Hello there. Turn your device off, please.
It is off.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, it's midnight. You're on with Seth. Go ahead.
Hello, Art. How you doing? This is Wade. Ham radio operators around the world are listening to you this evening. And I've got a question about the reason you need high-powered transmitters to listen. The spacecraft that just did the Pluto flyby has a maximum output of 12 watts. 12 watts isn't a lot of power, and it's got about a 30 dB gain antenna. That's one, and the other one is it is called a long path, and the signal does skip around the world, and a lot of times I've been unable to workstations pointing my beam type antenna directly at them, but been able to operate with them through the long path.
Right, opposite
so
direction.
All the way around the world.
Opposite direction.
Yes.
It does go all the way around the world, but no way in the world does it take anywhere near 3 to 4 seconds. So that's inexplicable. And even if it does, it doesn't arrive back at 20 over 9. No way.
No. And another thing, a quick invitation. Come back 3973 and see us after the show.
All right. Thank you very, very much for the call. No, there's just really no way to explain it, Seth. No way.
Well, I wouldn't give up, Art. I think there is a way to explain it, but I got to say the moon would work. But the 20 over 9, which of course is Hamlingo for really powerful signal.
Yes.
That's the hard part.
It's possible, Seth. It's just not mathematically possible, but I guarantee you it happened. All right, James on Skype. You're on with Seth. It's midnight. Go.
Yes, sir. Art, how you doing tonight?
Really well, thank you.
All right. Hey, since we're talking about outer space, and hopefully this question was asked earlier, but I saw something in the news about a live feed for the ISS, like a golden orange UFO of some type, and of course NASA cut the live feed. And I was just wondering if Seth or you had seen that or had any comment on that.
Let me explain that to Seth. Thank you for the call. Seth, again, this is the truth, or at least here's what I saw. They had a live feed from the ISS. It was just a static feed. You could see part of the little piece of the space station. And then beyond it, clearly, you could see objects leaving our atmosphere and going to space, 2 or 3 of them. And by the time about the third one came along, NASA cut the feed like that. Now, for some folks out there, Seth, that makes them really suspicious. You like to comment?
I think I did see this. I actually looked at the video.
Oh.
And what you see is indeed this fixed camera there on the ISS, and it's looking at the limb of the Earth.
Yes.
And you see these little dots, these white dots, and they're moving. It looks like they're coming up out of the atmosphere, kind of thing.
Yes.
But of course, to draw that conclusion that they're coming up out of the atmosphere, you need to know how far away they are. And I've talked to plenty of people in the space program about these things, which they see all the time. And what they are drops of oil or water, whatever, that are actually coming off the space station, and they're like 30 feet away or 20 feet away, and they're catching a little bit of sunlight. So they're not far away at all. They're not craft coming off the Earth. So you see this a lot, actually. And so if you see them a lot, and then the transmission goes down for whatever reason, maybe they're over a part of the Earth and they don't have a good downlink, and the signal goes away.
I'm sure that's it.
It's very, very convenient to say, well, all right, NASA doesn't want you to see these saucers.
Right.
Well, maybe NASA doesn't want you to see oil drops.
Well, maybe not. But there are a lot of us who look at something like that, and frankly, it really did look like they were coming up out of the atmosphere.
Well, it does, but that's a common problem, actually, in the whole UFO realm, that people will say, well, it was moving at thousands of miles an hour, and it was this far away, and that kind of thing. And, if you're going to say that, you need some way to gauge that. You can't just say, because that's what it seemed like to you, that it was moving very fast, because you can only tell how fast it's moving if you know you need to know how far away it is. You need to know how far away it is. And if it's something in the night sky, it's pretty hard to tell how far away it is. It might be 100 miles up, and it might be 1,000 miles up, and it might be 10 feet up, and then, it might look like
it does a drop of oil, huh?
Or water. Yeah.
Maybe water. Okay. Virginia, all the way to the state of Virginia. It's midnight for you, and you're on with Seth.
This is Wes out of Richmond, Virginia. I'm listening on shortwave on the 5085 kilohertz. And I've got a question for you. I saw a UK NEAR reporter ask you an article that's published kind of worldwide on August 4th about this alleged crab creature on Mars. And you kind of dispensed with that very abruptly according to what she reported. I don't know if you were quoting
that's sort of a reptilian brain thing. Now, there's 4 images that were taken by the rover, and they were taken on Sol 710, which was on August 5th, 2014, over a year ago. It was widely reported to be taken in July. I think that caused a lot of confusion. So about 372 days ago, rover's driving by this cliff face, and it's taking photos. I caught 4 photos of this object, which was widely reported as a crab. In reality, I've done some analysis, and I can assure you I'm not, seeing things that aren't there. I'm doing a exobioanalysis, a reverse engineering of exobioengineering to try to see exactly what this creature is composed of. And I found that it has 50 ball joints and sockets in its limbs. It's got 10 limbs, and they're bifurcated like legs at the knee that split out into 2 lower leg segments with opposable this is very detailed analysis.
It really is.
It's really there in 4 different pictures that's on the raw data. And I'd like, to dispense with the idea that this might just be somebody conjuring up an image in their reptilian brain, because it's real. It's in all 4 images.
Have you presented this to Richard C. Hoagland?
I wouldn't really want to do that without further analysis. What I'm trying to do is put together a multi-layered image showing all the different body parts and how they fit together.
All right, well, when you get that, send it to me immediately.
This thing has to have about 2.5 times the limb motor function control, and therefore it's got to be probably more intelligent than a human in terms of its motor control lobes in its brain. And if you're looking for intelligence, I'd be happy to give you any data that I might have and let you look at it, because I think this is really important.
Send it to me. I'm serious. Be my guest. Send it to me. It's hard for Seth to comment on this. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I did comment on the crab. It's always good to talk to a fellow Virginian, I have to say. But, what I saw of the crab photo, the whole body of data, and no pun intended there, the whole body of data was, a few hundred pixels. Right, so how you can do all this analysis about how many ball joints it has and so on. But let me put it to you this way. As I've seen photos on Mars, where there was one, today about, some little woman standing there on Mars. I think that these are all the same phenomena. I really do think they're periodolia. But if you were to see something that looked like, I don't know what, a carburetor lying on the surface of Mars, you say, well, that's a pretty unusual carburetor. But would you believe that? If somebody claimed, I found a carburetor sitting on Mars, you'd say, you're just seeing things in the rocks. It's like looking in the clouds and you're seeing things that look familiar to you. Okay? And
so I agree with you.
So we're going to leave him there for tonight. Come on back. We'll have one final SETI episode tomorrow night. Until then, like, share, and subscribe, be kind to one another, and release the Krakens. As we march along this overnight and every overnight here from day one. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.